Hi. Today I'm going to give you a really quick look at breech birth. How does it work? What is breech birth? And what does it look like when you see it on our obstetrical simulators? So first off, what is breech? Breech is when your baby is coming feet, butt, or knees first, instead of the usual head first, like most babies are born like this. So breech simply means your baby is turned the other way around and is coming out, head up, bum or feet down. Now, about 3 or 4% of babies at term are born breech. A lot more preterm babies are breech. So it's relatively uncommon at term, but still not that unusual. In fact, breech is twice as common as naturally occurring red hair. So if you think of all the redheads you know, there's twice as many breech babies as there are redheads. So it's an important thing to learn about. Now, there's different kinds of breech presentations. The most common is called a frank breech, and that's when the legs are folded up in half against the body, like this. We can also have complete breeches. That's when the baby is sitting with its legs scrunched up near the bottom. It could be Taylor style like this, or cross-legged. It could even be scrunched up like this, kind of sitting on its feet. That's called a complete breech. Some babies are incomplete breeches, and that's where you have one leg that's scrunched up near the bottom like this, all folded up, and the other leg straight up by its face or by its ears. That's basically half of a frank and half of a complete, and that's called incomplete. And finally, we have a few other kinds that are quite rare. One of them is called a kneeling breech, where the knees are coming first, one or both knees. And we also have a footling breech, where one or both feet are coming first, with one or both hips fully extended, so the baby is essentially standing up in utero. So those are the different kinds of breech presentations. So let me show you now what breech birth looks like. We'll use our Sophie and her mom simulator to show you. I also recommend checking out some of our educational breech birth videos on breechwithoutborders.org. You can see real-life videos along with some commentary that we've added in explaining the process as it happens. The two that I would suggest starting with are the 10 mechanisms of physiological breech and the first-time mom with a bicornuate uterus, because this also shows the normal 10 mechanisms. So take a look and let's learn about breech. Hi, I'm here with Sophie and her mom Ivory, and I'm going to show you what breech birth looks like on this simulator model. Now, there are some differences between the simulator and real life. You know, for example, you don't see the mom or the baby moving because they really can't. But despite that, I think you'll be really amazed at how lifelike this looks when you see the baby coming out and doing the normal movements that a breech baby does as it navigates the pelvis. It's really cool. As you can see, we have Sophie set up here to be upright, so she's in a more or less hands or knees or kneeling position, which is the way that we teach physiological breech birth. Of course, we also teach breech supine, which is when the mom is on her back. And we teach the normal maneuvers for supine breech births too, but we prefer to teach physiological as the standard. And that way, providers who train with us know how to do breech births in any position: standing, squatting, kneeling, lying down. Whatever you can imagine the mama doing, we can then teach providers how to follow that lead. So let's take a look and see what breech birth looks like with Sophie and her mom. Okay, first off, let's watch a frank breech baby come out. So what we see right now is the bum starting to rump. That's when the bum starts to come out of the perineum. Now, when the head comes first, we call it crowning, but of course, this is the bum, not the head, so we have to call it something different. So we use the word rumping. With the frank breech, the butt will come first. And once the widest part of the hips have been born, at some point after that, between about the umbilical cord or the nipples, you want to see the baby rotate 90 degrees from facing to the side to facing right towards you if you're behind the mom. Let's watch this baby do that little rotation. There we go. It rotated and both legs released. Next, as the mom is pushing, you'll see the arms release one after another. There you go. Often the baby will help pull his or her own arms out, along with the maternal pushing efforts. And the last step we see here is the head. So Ivory's going to give us a little push. You can see the chin and the nose are visible now. At this point, I'm going to put my hand here to get ready to catch. If the mom's kneeling on a bed and is not very far off the ground, honestly, it's fine. The baby can just come right out. But if the mom's higher up off the ground, like this simulator, have your hands ready to catch. And the head comes. And that's a frank breech birth. Let's take a look now at a complete breech birth. This is where the legs are folded up, Taylor style, etc. Sometimes the butt will come first, the legs folded up behind it. Sometimes the legs will actually come first, followed closely by the bum. Sometimes the legs will even drop down and extend, so it will look like a footling breech, but it's not truly a footling. Let's see what happens with this complete breech baby. Oh, there comes one leg. Baby's pulling its leg out. And there comes the other. And you'll see a little rotation, often before the arms are born, but sometimes with a complete breech, they might not rotate for later. They might not rotate until the arms are born, actually. Why is this with a complete breech? Well, when the legs are all folded up and scrunched up in funny positions with a complete breech, that kind of locks the baby into position in the pelvis. And then when the arms and shoulders enter the pelvis, sometimes that just forces the shoulders to scrunch into whatever position the baby's already in, usually slightly side facing. So if that happens, the complete breech will just keep coming down, but it won't rotate that full 90 degrees until a lot later. With the frank, it will almost always rotate that full 90 as it's being born between the umbilical cord and the nipples. Not so much with the complete breech. So don't be surprised if you see delayed rotation, but continued descent with the complete. And this baby has released its own arms, and Ivory's going to give us another little push. And watch the perineum kind of bulge out and get fuller looking. You'll see this on a real life birth too, even more distinctly than with the models. And I have my hand ready to catch. There we go. Well done, Ivory and Sophie. Next, let's take a look at an incomplete breech. This is where one leg is folded down near the bottom and the other leg is extended and folded back in half right towards the head. So we got the first leg released, coming out right there. However, the second leg is still up inside because it's folded up near the head. So that's more typical than incomplete. The other leg will take a little longer to come out as the baby continues to descend. There's the other leg. Okay, great. Baby has done its rotation to 90 degrees. Giving arms a little push. Here they come. I love how even on this model, you really see the baby looking as if it's pulling its own arms out, which is what happens in real life too. And then we just have the head. All right, let's take a look now at a footling breech or a dropped foot breech. This is where the feet come first, even though the baby started as a complete breech with its legs all scrunched up, but at some point during labor, the legs drop down. It's very normal for this to happen with a term baby. And in fact, most of what are called footling breeches at term aren't in fact footlings. They didn't start out standing up in utero. They simply dropped a leg or both legs down once there was enough space. This typically happens near the end of labor, once the cervix opens up enough. In either case, what you'll see are feet first. Cute little feet poking out. There we go. Now the butt and the widest part of the hips are born. And so at this point, we'd expect to see that 90-degree rotation as the mother has her next push. And here we go. Now, of course, in a real birth, you'll see a few other things that we can't show in a simulator. You'll see the baby kicking its legs, doing what are called tummy crunches or leg lifts. This is where the baby lifts up its legs, contracts up its abdominal muscles, and, just moving and kicking around. Besides indicating that the baby's in really good shape, this also has another function. This shows us that the baby is actively flexing itself, because when the baby does a tummy crunch or a leg lift, it ends up flexing its whole body. So it pulls its arms down, it flexes its spine, and it tucks its chin in. And that's exactly what we want to have happen, because that keeps the baby's arms close to being born rather than extending them. And it keeps the baby's head tucked in and flexed, which then makes the head the smallest possible diameter to come through the pelvis. So this baby is doing these movements which are instinctual. Who knows why? Maybe it's because there's more space. All of a sudden there's room to kick around. But by doing so, it actually helps itself be born. So we see leg lifts and tummy crunches with a vigorous baby. Baby pulls its arms out as mom helps push. And you might even see some more tummy crunches after the arms are born. And again, this is a good thing. It helps the baby flex its head and helps the head come out of the pelvis. So mom's going to do a little push. I'm ready to catch, but otherwise I'm trying not to touch the baby as much as possible. And here we go. I want to give a thank you to Sophie and her mom, Ivory, for working so hard today with us. Ivory and Sophie have traveled all around the world, teaching along with Ebony and Sophie, our other model set, as we teach vaginal breech workshops. Please take some time to look at our website, Breech Without Borders. We have all sorts of amazing resources for both providers and parents. You can look at videos of vaginal breech births that we've put together. You can look at videos of maneuvers showing how to free stuck arms or shoulders or heads. You can see all sorts of interesting resources and information, original articles, translations, advocacy resources, statistical information about the outcomes of vaginal breech birth. If you're a healthcare provider, we would love to come train you. We will come to your location and give you hands-on training in vaginal breech birth. Now, with the COVID-19 pandemic, it's a little tricky to travel in some locations. Nevertheless, we will go wherever we are currently allowed to, and we'll start to plan for other locations as soon as they open up. We've developed a new training format to keep people safe even during the pandemic. It's called our Hybrid Breech Workshop. Enrollees first take Breech Pro, which is our fully online vaginal breech training course. It has 15 hours of continuing education. You can watch it as many times as you like. You can download the materials. It also comes with twice monthly live sessions with the instructors. And then, as the other part of our Hybrid Breech Workshop, we come and offer small group hands-on simulation training. We keep the groups very small, no more than 3 or 4 people per instructor and per simulator, with full COVID-19 precautions. This allows us to give you the valuable hands-on training with Sophie and her mom while keeping everybody safe at the same time. So if you're interested, please check out our website, breechwithoutborders.org/training, to see all of the training options that we offer. Thank you.